I can hear the dog there.
To bring the dog on, why not? You can just sit beside you.
I think
it'll
he's
be a nice
having nightmares.
a
Probably
nice
listening to us too much.
unlocked nightmares with the dog. Um,
He probably knows more about Bitcoin than 99% of people out there.
he has to listen to you banging on about it. That's the thing.
Well,
You're just
yeah.
taking it all in. Um, but so yeah, what we were saying, well, we're kind of coming in here. This is episode six now, isn't it? It's episode six, six-figure Bitcoin. That's another
Oh, yep.
aspect. That's a nice
Right.
little
Yep.
lead into that. So yeah, well that obviously that happened. What when was that? Yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago. Would have been
You not
Wednesday.
have a big party on?
I didn't. It happened overnight when I was sleeping. It was actually my son woke me up. He usually comes tottering in about 6:10 in the morning, tries to find my phone and tries to do the Face ID when I'm asleep. So I just got this big bright light in my face, and first thing he was like, "Oh, Daddy, Bitcoin's over 100,000," and then I was like, "What?" Jumped up. It's like, "Oh, so it is." Then I went back to sleep. So yeah,
That's a nice way to waking up. So yeah, you wouldn't complain about that.
yeah. Well, actually, I tried to go back to sleep. I couldn't go back to sleep because I was like, "Well, this is new. This is interesting." I knew it was going to happen at some point, but yeah, it was good to see. Did you have a big party yourself then? Yeah.
No. I know there's a lot of hype about it, but it is kind of what does that mean? Where you're sitting about watching the computer and you're kind of going, no, 99,000, 100,000. You put up the sparkler, everything's good, and then you go back to watching the screen again.
Yeah, it was weird. It kind of no, I didn't really have any emotional response to it either. It was just like it was nice to see it happen because everybody was like banging on about it for so long. And then obviously, funny the next day, the mainstream media starts picking up,
Mm,
Sky News. Actually, the guy in Sky News done a good job, whoever he was. I saw the clip on Twitter. And he explained it pretty well, to be fair. That was the first time I've seen a mainstream news correspondent explain Bitcoin like properly for the first 30 seconds of the clip anyway, but then he got a wee bit kind of off tangent. But and I know BBC had somebody on today. I
yeah,
saw quite a lot of I didn't watch it either. I saw a clip of it, but I was like, oh, this just
it's
doesn't
for yeah.
like who is who even is she? Like what?
I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, I've actually never heard her speak before, seen the name before. Some people did say that they've seen her talk about Bitcoin before and that Bitcoin expert, but she was way off the mark and
Well,
its
like,
impact.
where do they get them from? Like where do like mainstream again, BBC, where do they get these people from? Like what if you're trying to educate and broadcast and do proper journalism, come on, get the facts right for a start. Get somebody on who's actually a bit more in tune with what's going on. But yeah, it's one of those things. But that's what you've been putting up with for years now with mainstream.
Yeah.
And it
But
seems
it's still getting the attention now and that was a big thing about the 100,000. Like again, I was the same as you, not an emotional reaction to it. It was great to see it on a screen, six figures, and I think that's the beginning of a new phase, really, I think,
mm,
from here. Now that doesn't mean again that there's short-term pullbacks and all that and rattle around certain price
yeah.
ranges for a while, or it could go on from here, but it
Mm,
kind of gets spoken and echoed around, mainstream media, social media now, and people take
mm,
interest in it again, which is what you want really. So we always say
yeah.
that the price is the marketing team for Bitcoin, and it really is. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
a few people have reached out to you as well between then. But look, to me, it's another day. It's another milestone in what almost 16-year history of Bitcoin, and it's a pretty significant one.
Mm. Mm. And I suppose that's, well, it is true. The more any publicity is good publicity in a way, but when you're trying to educate people around it and you start to see these broadcasts and these news reports and people are like they don't really understand it, but they bring these people on anyway. And I think again that's a whole barrier. Again, people are hearing this from a reputable news broadcast channel and they just take this stuff for fact what these people are saying. But again, that's where we're coming in. We're coming from the point of view that we've been in the space for 8+ years, and we actually know what it is, what Bitcoin is, what it means. So at least I'm confident enough in saying that we have got a better foundational knowledge base than some random talking head that doesn't really know what they're saying. But you don't want to be too critical often, but you have to be critical when things aren't
Yeah.
described properly. So
Yeah, it kind of puts, I think it puts a lot of things into perspective too. You see, when you think you're an expert at something, you realize how many hours you need to put on to actually really understand it, and your view changes and over time
Mhm.
that many times. And like I thought I understood Bitcoin after 2 years, and as you say, 8 years later, I still think we're only scratching the surface of what it is. But all those years of hard work kind of really shapes your view on things. And
Yeah,
if I'm to talk about something that I've studied for 50 hours now. Like, and I think that I can go out and speak in great terms about it. I will be really doubting myself that I can speak to it at length. Like, it really does take that, you know, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of study
yeah,
and time as well to really process
yeah.
it and understand it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, it's just that's what you're kind of fighting against a wee bit, but again, that's the way it is. But nice to see it, and obviously, it's getting more attention, and Bitcoin's just doing what it's doing, and it's not because of any real specific thing. Like people are saying, it's the Trump, kind of effect on it, but this was always kind of on the
Mhm.
cards to happen. It's designed this way, so it's not, yes, political and different things have an impact on the narrative, but Bitcoin will just keep doing what it's designed to do. And it's doing, what it is designed to do. So, and I suppose that's why, like this episode, we're talking a little bit more about potentially with regards to Bitcoin and specifically in business and small business. I think it'll resonate with a lot of people, a lot of listeners, hopefully as well. Um, being a small business owner for now over 17 years, and you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and then you realize, well, I have to get this into my business as well because this is where I want to spend. This is where I want to kind of transfer more of my time. But yeah, we'll talk if you're happy enough to talk a little bit about that today, Chris. And I suppose you can talk about the challenges because again, it's not all plain sailing with this. It's a new technology, a new protocol. It's something that people haven't seen before, and trying to adopt your business or integrate it into your business can be quite challenging for many people from the outset, but it boils down to this understanding. It's getting that understanding of what Bitcoin is. And once you do that, that makes it a bit easier. So yeah, we can talk around that today if you
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm interested in it. To be honest, I'm not fully sold on where it's at the moment in terms of medium of exchange and small business. I know you're in that space, and that's why I'm uh interested to hear and let other people hear your perspectives on it. Like this side of Bitcoin, I think it's just an evolutionary piece that's going to keep evolving. I think it's interesting. I think it works as well. That's the thing, and I think that's what makes it interesting in terms of people saying that, their Bitcoin doesn't scale. Like, from what I've seen so far and what I've understood, and I know there's still pieces to be built on things like Lightning and Liquid, which we'll go into as well. Like it does work. You can run your business on Bitcoin, and there's plenty of people out there doing it at the moment. But yeah, from my perspective, first of all, and I think I don't know if it was Seyfedin Amus that first spoke about this, but the kind of evolution of money. First of all, it starts off as a collectible, then store of value, and then it moves on to medium of exchange and then unit of account. So basically, it was a collectible at the start. Like people were passing about, like basically hoarding it at the start. Mining Bitcoin, and you could get 50 every 10 minutes if you were lucky, and mining at the beginning, and it didn't really have a value until the first transaction happened. And then once that transaction happened, I suppose that is a medium of exchange, but it also gave it value. And I'm very much in the camp that right now this phase that we're going through is store of value, but that doesn't mean that it's not crossing over with medium of exchange and also unit of account. As you see now, I think things are starting to get priced in Bitcoin. That's the unit of account side. So yeah, I'm 100% sold that the store of value aspect of Bitcoin is in play, well underway, still to be understood by quite a lot of people, but that's its function. Right now, it will move on to medium of exchange, and just interested in finding out how you see it at the minute, Alan. So maybe just a question for you. Whenever we even say using Bitcoin for your business, small business, large business, whatever business it is, there's probably two aspects to it that people hear about as well. So, and just kind of what I talked about, there's the balance sheet, so putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet, and there's the payment side of things. Do you want to break those two down just on how you see them at the moment? Where
Yep.
where businesses are at with putting it on their balance sheet and using it as a a reserve asset, and also the payment side of things.
Yeah, well, I think obviously, as you say, there it's the store value phase, and that's very much where I see it currently as well, and it will evolve into the medium of exchange. Obviously, depending on where you are in the world as well. Like if you're in different areas, like potentially El Salvador or some of the other kind of global South countries that are actually transacting, like micro communities are set up with Bitcoin payments, and they're using that as a medium of exchange. So in certain micro environments, it does be used as that, but currently, like if you're looking at the West or the bigger picture for businesses, larger corporations, the store of values kind of the real kind of interesting concept at the moment where, as you say, you can hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet, just like companies hold cash in their balance sheet and hold everything else. And if you know go down the route of studying and sort of looking into what Michael Saylor's done with his company, on a big scale, like I'm a small business, small opticians business, but you can actually model what these, really successful, massive companies are doing. And he identified the problem, and the problem was in 2020, he had, I think, was it 500 million of cash sitting on his balance sheet. He saw the problem. The problem was inflation. They were creating so much money. Trillions and trillions of dollars were being flooded into the economy, which was devaluing, debasing the currency. So he was looking at his cash, evaporating over a few years. So he just needed somewhere to store that. And it's a bit like if you think of a battery, where's the best place to put your economic energy, your store of value? So you look at a number of different commodities, assets, gold, property, etc. All these things have certain flaws that will, effectively, well, based around inflation, effectively, again, will kind of reduce the value over time. And you've got risk and counterparty risk and various things. But then obviously he identified Bitcoin as this key concept that is the primary apex asset, that is the best place to store his value. So I suppose modeling what he did and following his journey, it was kind of the next logical step for me and my business, and seeing other small business owners talking around the concept and medium-sized businesses. And it's not really it's again, when you understand what Bitcoin is and get that baseline understanding of what it is, it's not that difficult a leap to do this, because even as an individual, you're wanting to save your money. So Bitcoin allows you to save your money across, well, space and time, but especially time. If you're storing your wealth in cash, it's like what was the half-life of, was it within about, I can't even remember what it is now, Chris. You probably know more than I do in that respect. What's the timeline if you have like, say you have 100,000 sitting, and within about what, 5 to 10 years, that's diminished by what's like something stupid?
I
Is it
can't
like,
remember, but a lot of this as well comes down to how fast money printing happens and what you really
well,
think is the
that impacts,
CPI.
yeah.
But I think Saylor said one time, if you're holding cash and it's depreciating by 10% each year, which some of the statistics show, maybe not the government statistics, that inflation is 10% a year, uh,
Hmm.
CPI, then yeah, it can be a matter. I think it's even single figure years.
Yeah,
That
it is.
that
Even to
half.
lose a half the value, I think it's only a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's something stupid, but it's your purchasing power. So this is your purchasing power. Effectively, you're trying to store. So yeah, Bitcoin is that asset which you can easily, it's money you own yourself, money you take full control of. There's no counterparty risk. You can take self-custody off that. So if you design it in a way where you have that asset in place, you can then just basically through your accountancy or through your accountant, hold that on your balance sheet as you would with cash or any other asset that way. And the beauty of that is, you're storing your value and your purchasing power in, the most or the strongest asset that has ever been effectively, brought into existence. And mathematically and based on its laws of, the principles of how it functions, that your monetary value will be at least at the very least stored there, but it will effectively, increase over time. And for anybody that's done that over the last, especially over a 4 year period, and depending on when, because like I think it was only last year, no, yeah, not last year, the year before, I decided to put it on my balance sheet. And based on obviously the trajectory of Bitcoin over the last couple of years, the initial value has like effectively over doubled in purchasing power and value over that time. So it's actually technically you could say it's performed better than the actual business itself, which is a weird thing as well. It's yeah, it has effectively it has. So that itself, just being able to know as a business, you're going to be able to store and put your money and your purchasing power into something that is easily accessible to you as an individual or business owner, and is easily accommodated on your balance sheet. It's kind of logical for me to do that. And that's one aspect of using Bitcoin within your business. And what does that do? Well, it effectively makes your business appear more valuable as well. If you're looking at growing your business and potentially exiting from the business as well, yes, you'll want to exit with your Bitcoin with you. But the actual appearance of your business, that really, positive cash, well, Bitcoin rich balance sheet is an appealing and attractive you know, lure for someone to kind of explore what your business is. So you can gain more attention that way as well if you're looking to potentially exit and, do something with your business down the line. But simply just, saving your money and growing your income and growing your balance sheet, that's for me, Bitcoin's the primary way to do that. So that would be kind of from the store of value point of view, that's really where that lies. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just before we move on to the medium exchange, which I think where you're going to next, um, what kind of timeline are you talking when you talk store of value for your business? Because I know business need access to cash flow at times, and I know this will depend business to business, but what would kind of your advice be for, I don't know, not financial advice, but your general advice in terms of thinking about this over, a period of time? Having access to cash flow and having this stored on your balance sheet. I kind of talk around a bit about that.
And like, I suppose the thing is, yeah, it depends. It really just depends on the individual businesses. Obviously, you're probably depending on how your business is set up and how much, inventory and stock you need to be buying in the cash flow itself. You'll potentially be apportioning a percentage of that and then putting it onto Bitcoin or into Bitcoin, and then keeping the cash flow, running for the normal functioning of your business. But for me as a small business, I'm trying to, in a way, it's directly linked to me anyway. It's not so much, I'm not a big corporation as such. I don't have shareholders involved apart from myself. But I think from an accounting point of view as well, looking around it, and it would be interesting again to invite an actual Bitcoin specific accountant on on an episode to talk around this too, because it's a learning curve as well. Like you're trying to work with your accountant and you're trying to lead your accountant along the journey. Then they're going to have to go and do the research around it. And then you have to put your trust in them knowing what they're doing. So it can get a bit tricky as well. But it's the concept of, yeah, being able to know because there's different things as well. There's a whole thing about this. If you hold more than 60% of your balance sheet in Bitcoin, then that can actually cause your company to become more of a, I think it's called an investment-based company as opposed to a
The
normal.
UK, you're speaking specifically?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So there's different nuances involved. So it's not like a kind of black and white thing. Every business is very much, individually specific around that. So depending on your circumstances, if you're a small, like sole trader, independent, couple of employees in your business, very micro business, I suppose the best way to describe it, you're effectively using that balance sheet, the Bitcoin on your balance sheet as your own, in a way, your personal balance or your personal Bitcoin holdings. But there's advantages in bringing it into the business structure, around tax and various things as well. But then it comes to the point where, as well, with the lending options as well around Bitcoin, again, for businesses, that can be quite attractive. And that, if you have a collateral asset, Bitcoin itself, and you've got a reasonable and, secure way of being able to lend against that collateral, then ideally that's what you could do as a business as well, as opposed to selling it and having a capital gain tax involvement. So, as the saying goes, you never sell your Bitcoin, and I think the same thing applies for businesses where possible. I know a lot of mining companies and various Bitcoin specific companies that utilize Bitcoin and store it on their balance sheet. They tend to have to sell to pay electricity bills and various things as well. So it's a very kind of nuanced topic around, especially with small businesses, but it's definitely something again we should bring somebody on around that. I know there's a couple of guys come to mind actually, so it'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
that must be that'll be a growing business, I would say, if you're
Oh yeah,
specialized.
like I see there's one guy on Twitter, I can't remember his name offhand, but yeah, like he's doing a lot of, he's involved with the crypto space as well, but it's,
Yeah.
he's very knowledgeable around
See at the
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Ireland conference, I think.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I never got chatting to him actually.
We must invite him on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I've got him. I'll reach out to him actually
So,
after.
so the simplified version is what you're saying is if you understand it, you can use cash flow and sweep it into a Bitcoin balance sheet item, a Bitcoin on your balance sheet, and whether you can understand the tax yourself, because I'm sure there's some accountants out there that can do this already, and if they understand Bitcoin, then that's fine. um, or you just find a knowledgeable accountant on this. So what you
Mhm.
done, what it sounded like you did was, you kind of had your accountant navigate that, but yeah, so it's really a two-step process. It's Bitcoin on the balance sheet first of all, and then yeah, getting an accountant that understands how this
Yeah.
works. To
And there's no magic way of, you don't have a specific Bitcoin balance sheet wallet. It's a very similar concept. You're bringing into, self-custody or multi-sig, whatever it may be. You have the transaction log because Bitcoin's an open ledger. It's verifiable on the blockchain, so you can verify how much you have or the company has and is holding. I know that there's a few people questioning around MicroStrategy, the proof of reserves and all that stuff as well. And I think Sailor has a bit of a issue with that. I didn't I'd get the take on what he was his angle of why should I have to divulge the actual amount on a open ledger. But I'm not sure what what your take is on that, Chris, as far as surely a publicly traded company claiming to hold that number of Bitcoin should obviously disclose that generally on a
I would like to see more
yeah.
transparency, but I don't know should is the right way. But I would like to see it. Like you would like to see proof of reserves and stuff like that on, especially if a lot of people have, like as you said, it's a public company first of all, but a lot of people are investing in this. Like that was the whole point of what happened back in the 1920s, was it in the US where the SEC and everything came along. Not that I'm a big fan of regulation, but if you're
Mm,
going to market something to the public, first of all, I think you should take personal responsibility and judge for yourself if this is a good company or a good investment. But on the other side of it, not everybody has that time to be an expert in balance sheets and accounting. So the more transparent a public company can be, the better. And again, all these lessons were learned a long time ago. So again, I would like to see it. I don't know if it should be
mm,
done, or I haven't listened to reasons why it wouldn't be. But yeah, all these ETFs and everything that are out there for Bitcoin, I think there should be transparency. There was something around showing proof of reserves, and that's like kind of a point in time. People show kind of a flash, but that doesn't mean that the next day you can't move it out of the wallet. And
yeah,
that was a proof of reserve on that point, and you can load up the wallet at that point, and I suppose you
I
can probably
know.
see the transaction history from that wallet.
It's
But
very true, actually, and that's the problem with the balance sheet thing as well. It's like, if you're recording it in your accounts, your accounts is just a snapshot on a particular date as well. So it's a similar thing. But yeah, it can be used as options too, with regards to it being on your balance sheet. You can actually use it, for, delect if your director's account or director's loan account is overdrawn or anything, you can, effectively use that Bitcoin to kind of offset the amount overdrawn as long as it's held on your balance sheet. So
mhm.
there's different, reasons to do it in that respect as well. And again, it's an evolving aspect of accounting. Again, most, and I think I'm pretty sure, yeah, most accountants, I would say 99% of accountants, and probably more, don't understand it because again, most people don't really take the time or haven't taken the time to understand Bitcoin. And it's a discussion I'll be having again in the coming weeks, probably with my own accountant around it. And I've mentioned it, Bitcoin itself specifically, getting a better knowledge base around it. But I'm not sure if they've taken the bait or not, or if they've gone down the rabbit hole. It's having that discussion. But I think that is the thing. The Bitcoin specific accountant industry would be a good profession to get into.
Where do you think we're at the stage of, like, a lot of small businesses are struggling, and I think the latest tax and budget information that came out from certainly from the UK, puts more pressure on small businesses. Do you think, and when do you think? I don't know, we can't predict specifically, but like when is the stage that if you don't have this on your balance sheet, are you gonna lose out? Are you gonna fall behind, and those that do it and move first are gonna succeed? Like when does it become a necessity? Are we nearly there yet where
I
you'll
think
see businesses fail without it?
I think we're there now. I think we've been here for the last few years. I think from 2020, basically from COVID, it's it's a necessity to have something on your balance sheet that can actually, outperform inflation, outperform all the tax hikes and everything that comes with running a business nowadays. It's a struggle. Like flip with national insurance contributions in the UK here going up as well. The number of small businesses and medium-sized businesses that are having to lay off staff just to counteract that. It's affecting everything. So I think it's necessary now to get the knowledge base behind what Bitcoin is, why you should potentially use it within your business, integrate it in that form of having it on your balance sheet at the very least. And then, as we're probably going to run on and talk about now, it's the payments option as well, and why that's another interesting concept to have and integrate and start using in your business and potentially promoting as well, which can be a trickier area that I've found as well. So, but no,
Yeah.
it's necessary. Like again, going back to Sailor, like you've certain, well, I suppose options regarding where you put your wealth, your economic energy as an individual, as a business owner. When you break down which is the best one, again, it always comes back to me, and it always comes back to Bitcoin for me, and that's the concept, and that's what you need to have in your personal life and in your business as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Again, I don't run a small business, but I can see the logic behind this, and I do think that it's probably a stage where a lot of businesses, like their cash is going to run. Like inflation's going to eat away at a balance sheet that's holding cash over a number of years, as you say, and it's as simple as that. It's like, what do you do with the cash holding? Like you've got two options, really, don't you? You use it to grow your business, or use it to buy assets, well, three options, or you
Yeah.
sit there, and that option there. If you can grow your business, fair enough. Can you grow it faster than Bitcoin's going to grow? But if you've got cash and it's sitting there idle and you're using it for a rainy day, or you're just sitting on it because you don't know what to do with it, then that's gonna deplete over time.
The
And
thing about that is now, when you say that, Chris, that's the minority of businesses currently. Like, not many businesses will even have cash available.
right.
Uh, with the way things are, you're going to be a medium to bigger size company there to have any form of cash in your
Well,
balance
how do
sheet.
you make it work then? Like if you don't have excess cash and it's all cash flow and it's used for the business, how do you make it work? Is it a case of, you know, cutting back on someone and using it?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, like, if you're a micro company, a small business, you're going to have to, again, that comes down to the conviction of what your knowledge base is around Bitcoin. You're going to have to make maybe certain cutbacks, or, try to increase your revenue, try to increase your income in certain aspects, obviously. But it's where you're putting your energy. Like, are you taking a percentage, a portion off your income and actually actively putting that into Bitcoin? Again, until you're convicted around it, you've got that conviction around it, you're not going to do that. It's just the cash is gonna, go somewhere else. It's gonna go into, buying potentially more stock or something you might need in your business to, as a fixture, fitting, accessory, or whatever it may be. But it's come to the point where small businesses are cutting back so much. It's you're going to have to take that step of identifying, I'm going to have to take a certain proportion of my income and try to put that somewhere where it's not going to lose value, where it's
Yeah.
going to actually grow in value over time. But it's tough. Like, again, you, from the conversations again I've had with many business owners, it's this past year especially, I sense and I feel and I know it's harder. It's a lot harder to do that for these bigger companies. And again, it's where you are in the spectrum. A lot of, as we kind of talked a little bit about it in a previous episode, there's a lot of companies out there that are, without being propped up by, again, money printing and, handouts and various government aided policies. They wouldn't be a company, they wouldn't be a business. They're zombie companies. Whereas the small businesses that are, regularly called the backbone of the economy, they don't have the luxury of that. They have to provide a service, a product in exchange for that money coming in. And if they don't do that, they don't get paid. And that's basically what a, medium of exchange is. That's what money is. You produce something of value first, and then the demand's there for it. So somebody will, say, well, I value that product, that service, so I'm going to give you some medium of exchange for that, which is currently currency. So until the kind of world evolves into the fact that, and again, this is what Bitcoin does, it pushes more businesses that are producing and creating value into the world to kind of rise towards the top, and it gets rid of all those kind of wasteful businesses or these policies. And we won't talk about government policies and certain things, but there's certain, um, subsidies that are being dished out to various sectors that are just, in my mind, a total waste, and it's
Yeah.
just adding to the problem.
It's crazy, and that's some fascinating insights, Alan. You wonder again, like I don't, you probably speak to a lot more small business owners, and anybody that's listening to this probably can resonate with you quite a lot. But it wasn't like I didn't realize it was as tough as it was, and I know inflation's been a problem for years, but like it sounds crazy what small business owners are going through, and there is a potential solution sitting there for them.
Yeah, yeah. Again, people don't realize, a lot of people don't. If you're not in it yourself, you wouldn't. But like it's tough, and it
Yeah.
has been for again from COVID. It's like the amount of businesses that closed on the high street. Like you look at any high street, yourself, you walk down any city high street or anywhere, like most of these physical brick and mortar stores are shutting up. But again, as we talked about, you have to evolve as well. And if technology is evolving, you're going to have to try to evolve, and businesses are evolving to be more online and serving their customers in different ways, which is a good thing. It's part of an economy and how it functions. Um, but again, I think people get stuck in their own ways. People get, stuck in their own business and the traditional set of business kind of mindset as well. So it's trying. There's a lot of, it's complex basically, but it's tricky at the moment, definitely out there across the board, more or less. But Bitcoin is that, and I've mentioned it again before. Bitcoin is that hope that is lost, I think, across many sectors. It brings that hope back to the concept of being able to store your value and save. Because at the end of the day, it's a savings technology. But until you understand that and grasp what it is, you probably won't even give it a second thought, and you'll just go on with your business and go on until, unfortunately, in many instances, it just doesn't work out for it. So it's yeah, not to get too doom and gloom. But
No, no,
it's
but
a reality.
as you say, it's hoping there's an option out there, and I think that's a big thing for small businesses. And I know it's going to be hard to move that needle at times at the start, but everyone knows over a period of time, and that was kind of the original question. What kind of time frame are you talking? Like over years, this is going to increase your purchasing power
Mm.
because we're in this adoption phase. So look, I know it sounds doom and gloom, but that's the reality of things, and that's where we're at. But there is hope there, as you say.
Yeah.
What about the payment aspect then? Is it all right if I give my views just a second on where I see payments at the moment? And
No, it's not, Chris.
yeah, all right, you jump on that then if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
But no, like the payment side of things, like what I want to try and get from you is like why would you start out taking payments for your business? Because I see two blockers. First of all, like there's going to be setup costs for setting up, and this is me playing devil's advocate and me being just honest with you, Alan, as we always do. It's not that attractive for me if I was setting up a small business. I know we're Emerge 21. Well, like for example, we're a Bitcoin education and consulting company. I don't expect our customers to, because they're coming to us trying to understand Bitcoin, they won't have a Lightning network set up already. So, like, we could spend a lot of time, and we will, eventually set up the Lightning capabilities. So, and we'll get into what that is as well in a second. But Bitcoin payments basically for business, but sometimes it's effort, and sometimes there's cost to it as well. Sometimes very minimal. Sometimes I'm sure you're going to touch on it as well. There's very simple ways of doing this, but
Mm.
is the just worth the squeeze? Essentially, like setting this up as payments, is it gonna get any return at all for you in terms of return on investment? I don't know, there's the marketing side of things, and I'm sure you'll touch on that as well. And then the second point is people just spending Bitcoin in general. So it's probably more of a general topic. Like capital gains tax, that you may pay on disposing of an asset. Like to me, those two things, the setup cost and the setup and the amount of business you'll get using Bitcoin payments, and the maybe potential managing your accounts, for capital gains tax. So that my view on it is we're not quite there yet. What I would like to see is more friendly UIs. I know we talked about this before, and easier integration for businesses. Plus, I would love to see, and it was talked about in the US before, of no capital gains on Bitcoin because at the end of the day, I see Bitcoin as money, and on money there shouldn't be any capital gains tax. So that's my kind of perspective. First of all, Alan, I'd like to say, like, ask the question first of all, why would you start out doing this and go through the positives, and then what are the downsides of using Bitcoin as a business
Yeah.
for your business?
Yeah, well, like starting off there, like there are a lot of barriers, as you say. Depends on where you are located across the globe as well. If there was this, if you lived in a jurisdiction where there's no capital gains on Bitcoin transactions, that would be excellent. But yeah, it's the whole concept initially, I suppose, spending and replacing, and the tax is similar to like spending money as well. It's a similar thing in a way, but no, it's the reason for, I suppose, the why of doing it. From my point of view, my personal reason was because obviously went down the rabbit hole, got to know what Bitcoin was, why it's so important, not just as a monetary asset, but what it means for the rest of the world, as it, becomes more commonplace. So from a kind of, I suppose, what would you say, an educational point place and a talking point more so. You know, I am openly accepting Bitcoin in my business, and just being able to kind of display that and have that in my practice and say, look, yeah, you can pay with Bitcoin. It's a talking point, so it starts to bring out that kind of educational, like, well, it's a bit of intrigue, and people start talking about it and asking about it and bringing up these things about, well, what is Bitcoin and why would I use that? Is it some kind of scam? And all those, all the stuff you normally get. So it's been able to actually open up a conversation without having to be, you know, I was gonna say physical with someone, shaking them and telling them this is big, you got to understand Bitcoin. But it kind of, it opens up that angle so that your customers that are coming in start to become more aware of it. And that spins around more towards, like, again, the marketing side of things. But just as a Bitcoiner, just being able to use Bitcoin for what it was designed to be as well. You're going from the store of value to the medium of exchange, and the concept around that, and just getting people more aware of how it works, that it is a form of money, that you can use it to buy my products and services. So the thing that I'm, bringing and producing to the world, I will happily accept Bitcoin for that. So it plants a seed in a way, as a business, it plants a seed. Plus, when you flip it into the marketing side of things, it gets attention. It gets other traders within your local town or city talking about you. They start asking questions. Local business owners start kind of, wanting to know more about it. And it opens up a kind of more of a network effect organically as well. And again, it's hard because, when you start discovering Bitcoin, you kind of feel like you want to go and tell everybody about it, but you can get a bit enthusiastic around it, and it puts everybody off. I've learned that the hard way. But whereas as a business, and you're seen in your local community as well, depending on where you're located, you're seen as like a trusted entity as well if you've been established for many years. So if people are actually picking up that you're using Bitcoin or you're accepting Bitcoin, they're more likely to come and, talk about it, listen to you about it as well. So it's more just the actual adoption of Bitcoin and the growth and getting it out there to more people. That was probably my main reason. Practically for businesses now, I know of quite a few have contacted me over the last, again, probably 6 months, from various places within Ireland, within the UK. The issue is, I suppose, especially within an online context, the actual transactions, getting the payment processing set up. Now there's companies like, again, hopefully invite John from ZapRight on, that are making things a lot easier. And Muscat as well, based out of the UK. They've got a card terminal now that, just like a normal card terminal, you can accept, money card payments, normal card payments, but it's an integrated Bitcoin payment option as well within the same terminal. So just the kind of the ability and making it more accessible and easy to integrate into your business, that was the first barrier, because you had to set up a separate, like Coin Corner, an exchange account. You gotta use QR codes and do different things, which is fine to send lightning payments. But now you can actually do it with a simple card payment device that more people are used to using. You walk in with your phone, you tap it. It's the same thing. You walk in with your phone, you tap it, but you're sending a Bitcoin transaction. So I think it's a thing that Jeff Booth said as well. It's like nobody really in the general community and society understand the plumbing behind how the financial system works or the whole network. They just use it. I think the same thing will work for Bitcoin. And until that does happen, where people can just simply tap and use it, which is basically happening as we speak, more and more people will start utilizing Bitcoin, potentially even without knowing they're using it. Because if it becomes more of the base layer for payment rails as well over time, people will be effectively transacting with Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, similar to what we're doing today for fiat currency, and probably be totally unaware of it because things are just being settled on the base layer. But that's more of a technical thing that probably you'd be better talking about.
So there are options out there then. Again, I haven't been in this space and that's why I'm interested in talking to you. So there are options there for small businesses in the how to get started. You named a couple of companies there that have,
Mhm.
ready-made products that can be set up and terminals and things like that.
Yeah, like Coin Corner, again, that was the company, like they're Bitcoin only exchange, but they've got different products as well. They've actually got the Bull card as well, which is simply actually, hold on, where are we? I have one here. It's a bit dirty on itself. So it's just a normal card. I think it's an NFC card, is that what it's called? But yeah, you
Yeah.
can load up or you can connect it in a way to your account on Coin Corner, and you can load up whatever it is on the card. Or you can set a limit within your actual exchange account, and it's simply a matter of tapping on a mobile phone. So a QR code could be brought up on a mobile phone. You don't actually have to use your phone or scan the code. You can just tap the card on a phone. So if a business owner, a merchant is set up to accept Lightning payments, which is again, we'll talk about that probably shortly. There's different simple apps you can download, like there's Wallet of Satoshi, which can be set up as a POS for business owners as well. So, and it's open source, so you don't have to be using the same software, the same company. So you can transact across multiple different companies. And similar to Musket, the card terminal device, I could simply walk in with this card and pay, I don't know, 350 for a coffee. Sorry, 350, that's ridiculous now. It's like 450 for a coffee. It's ridiculous. So you could just tap the card, that'll send the sats over, your Satoshis, because your micropayments you're going to be paying in sats. And that's across what's called the Lightning Network, which is a layer two built on top of the Bitcoin base layer protocol network. So yeah, there's loads of different options, and it's very easy to get set up. It's actually in a way free. In a way, you can actually get set up accepting payments for free, um,
Okay.
without any. Well, again, yeah, Coin Corner effectively is free as well. You're literally only paying the small transaction fee, which is minuscule. It's actually it's smaller than the Visa and MasterCard debit card payments or credit card payment fees, which we need to get the guys from Muscat on as well. Um, their fee, I think on their card processing terminal, their fiat currency fees are actually cheaper than the majority of other normal card processing terminals. So there's a whole business being built on this, on the different layers. So on the layer twos and layer threes, and you're better talking around this than me with regards to protocols and stacks of protocols. But it's the thing you hear all the time. People think Bitcoin's like a dinosaur. It's clunky. It's expensive to send transactions. No, there's different options around this. There's stuff being built on this, networks that are peer-to-peer that don't have the middleman third parties of the Visa networks. There's a slide on the one of our presentations, it kind of very simplistic slide about how to send a Lightning payment, which is literally just peer-to-peer. Whereas if you're trying to send a payment through your debit card or your credit card, it goes through about five or six different intermediaries in between. So yeah, it's more economically as well. From an energy standpoint, I suppose you could go down that path as well. It's a better way of functioning from a monetary network, but it's simple to get set up. It really is. And again, until you have the conviction of understanding Bitcoin and realizing what it is, you won't have that set up in your business, because it'll seem like it'll just be too much of a barrier. New technology scares people, but it's really not that scary, and it's actually in a way better for your business in the long run. Um, but that's effectively around payments. That's
Yeah.
simple enough to get set up.
Yeah, no, excellent overview of it, Alan. I think it probably surprised me, some of these things that are free because I haven't been through that process. Again, I've studied a lot of the technicalities of Light Network, and I'll talk about that in a second. But um, I know I was playing devil's advocate earlier on, why would you do it where we think it's at or where I think it's at the moment, and some of the stumbling blocks. but it's an area that I think is going to grow. No doubt, the payment side of things. I think it's going to be huge. I think there are some great leaders out there in the payment space as well, and that's going to keep growing. So, I'll just explain briefly then the Lightning Network that you touched on and how it interacts with Bitcoin for anyone that's interested out there. So, I know we've explained Bitcoin, and a lot of people do understand it better than the Lightning Network, and maybe not in other terms, but Bitcoin is, I would see it as the secure center of money. So it's actually not designed to be for millions of transactions a second. So what's happened there is an off-chain solution called the Lightning Network. It has been designed so someone basically sidelined some Bitcoin, and people refer to it as locking funds up to make numerous payments that happen off the network. So it doesn't actually record on chain. So again, Bitcoin is very secure. It's not meant for these millions of transactions. It was never meant to scale to such a standard where everyone could use it. So Lightning was seen as a second layer solution. It's got instant payments, low fees, almost zero fees, and in ways there's a lot of privacy built into it. And there are some initiatives at the moment to enhance privacy on that. And I know a lot of people want that to come to Bitcoin as well, because at the end of the day, cash is private, and all our transactions that we do online and through payments are not, and there's a lot of surveillance on that. So we need to get back at some stage to private payments, and I think it's the right way to do it. So yeah, the Lightning Network is essentially you've got Bitcoin where you can store your value over time, and the way I would see it is if you have any savings that you want to save long term, store it on the Bitcoin main chain, which is, as I say, it's purposefully slow, very secure, so that nobody can break it, nobody can hack it. Then there's the second layer then where you can take a small amount of Bitcoin off the main chain, put it into the Lightning Network, and it can zip across different payments between different people. And then once you want to record it back on the main chain, you just record it back and close that Lightning channel. Now, also, you don't have to do this yourself. There's already ready-made solutions set up, so you don't have to open that channel. You don't have to lock up Bitcoin. You don't have to do any of that. You can use payment rails that are already set up there. So yeah, the Lightning Network's grown over years. Every time I've used it, it's worked perfectly. I see it scaling. I see it. I don't see any problems with it. I think in the early days there was, and it got a bad reputation. But over the years, it's come on leaps and bounds, and it seems to be scaling at a fast rate. I also want to talk about Lightning as well, or sorry, Liquid as well. So Liquid is another form of payment. I don't know if you've used it, Alan, at all so far.
I haven't actually used it. That's through is it Blockstream?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blockstream. Yeah, Adam Back and Samson Mao, I think, are involved in this heavily. But yeah, Liquid's another option as well. So these are all different payment options for Bitcoin, and the whole premise around it is to not make the main chain not flooded with payments and high fees and all that. So take Bitcoin off chain and zip it about society, and it all works seamless again from what I've seen so far. Now Liquid is another option, and we should have different options as and again what we talked about. Things will evolve and things will adapt, and whichever is the strongest payment method or strongest number of payment methods are going to work for Bitcoin. Liquid is a different security model, a different way of locking up Bitcoin. Users actually move Bitcoin to what's called L-Bitcoin, liquid Bitcoin, which is pegged to Bitcoin 1-to-1. So basically, if you move 0.01 Bitcoin to liquid, then the same amount gets locked up in liquid Bitcoin. The security model around it is more of a federated system, so meaning that there's entities who manage multi-sig wallets for the fund. Probably going too technical on this, but multi-sig wallets, think of it as a number of keys, and so many people have to turn those keys in order to access the funds. It sounds centralized in a way, but in order for the Federation to hack it or steal funds, for example, they need 11 out of 15 people to turn those keys and work together and do this. So you imagine how big of a coordination that would need to be for 11 out of the 15 to try and scam everyone to do this. Now, a couple of things that are in place for Liquid, which make it interesting, is that they're first of all a geographical dispersed group, so it's not like they're all sitting in one building and they're controlling it. It's all over the world. And second, they all have skin in the game. Their businesses are built on payments, so they're all payments companies, and they use Liquid for their business. So they rely on the success of Liquid, and that's what kind of makes it secure in a way. So again, imagine 15 entities and one taps one on the shoulder and said, "We're going to try and do this, and we're going to coordinate with the next one, and we're going to build it up." It's going to get caught very early. That's the challenge, and the chance of somebody doing that if their business is built on it is even less. So, look,
Mm.
Lightning, which is that layer two solution built on Bitcoin, and Liquid as well, which is just a different security model, different setup. Um, they're both options for fast, cheap, scalable transactions on Bitcoin. And I know people talk about altcoins are going to be and all these different alternative payment methods for cryptocurrencies or whatever are going to be the solution. Like Bitcoin as the currency already, it is the money. The second layer of Bitcoin will solve scalability
Mm.
and transactions, fast, cheap, scalable transactions on Bitcoin. So I think as a general rule as well, just to finish up on this, like I would see as touched on this earlier, keep your savings on Bitcoin on the main chain, like that's your long term, and then keep any kind of floating cash on Liquid. So whatever you would keep in your wallet, essentially, your physical wallet, you should keep on the Lightning network, because
Mhm.
truth being told, Bitcoin is the securest asset that you'll get. Won't be hacked. Nothing will happen. If you protect your own keys, then no one can get to it. Whereas Lightning, it is a bit, and Liquid, it is a bit technical to set up in ways. Um, and there are some third parties involved along the way. Again, it's all secure. There's good incentives around it for it to work, but you don't want to be keeping, significant amounts of money on these wallets at any time. So it does work. Um, for payments for buying coffee, despite what people think and say in the media sometimes that you can't buy coffee with Bitcoin. You can with these solutions. So that's kind of, I know it's not a full technical overview, but it's kind of some insights into some of the options there. And I think again, if they're not up to standard, what we said before is there's going to be something built again and again and again until this is right.
Mm.
And I do have a feeling that Lightning and Liquid will both succeed over the long term.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be more
Yeah.
different options as well. So
And obviously you've got the likes of Fetty as well, and
yeah,
again, I haven't dived deep enough into it yet, but the fact this whole, people are talking about, cash, small businesses as well, use cash, and in cash, obviously that privacy, you can't be, there's no surveillance on that. You can go with a, 20 or 30 quid and hand it over, and there's no transaction recorded on any ledger as such. But I suppose with Fetty as well, like the whole concept of e-cash and is it cashew?
mhm,
eCash, the way it's designed as well, offers that kind of element of similar privacy as what you would have within, using physical cash, but in the digital world, which is an interesting concept as well, in a way that it can't be, I don't think you can be actually tracked to the transaction as such, because it's either mixed within a, I'm not sure what way it works effectively, but we'll have to, look into that as well. But that's stuff being built on top of the base layer on top of Lightning effectively as well. So it's a whole ecosystem that's, just growing, and it's flourishing, and it will continue to emerge over time. But yeah, that's good technical explanation there actually. The liquid option, I haven't looked at that at all. So good to hear about that actually, just to see. Well, I wasn't fully aware of how that functioned.
yeah, it's good just to have options. I think for anyone, and these second layers and you mentioned third layers as well are getting built out on Bitcoin, and that is the whole ecosystem. Like that's why it's going to be so big, and
Mm.
the amount of different companies working on this stuff is amazing. Like
Yeah. And you've got the likes of Nostr, you could go down the route, like even, decentralized healthcare, and there's the whole kind of multitude of stuff coming, which is exciting. But into the back to the context or the kind of theme of the podcast around business, you did mention as well at the start about like what are the challenges, and I think that the challenge of, you know having Bitcoin payments set up in your business and on your balance sheet and being talking around Bitcoin can have a bit of a negative effect in a way. It could potentially put people off. And this links back into the concept of this mainstream media narrative and where are people getting their information on what Bitcoin is? Are they conflating it with crypto, which most people do? And it's something in recent times, recent weeks, effectively, I've been, kind of leading with the concept to start with is like it's Bitcoin and then there's crypto. It's a completely separate thing. Don't mix the two together. Um, and I think people, when they realize that, it opens their eyes, but most people don't. So if you're a business and you're all, new to accepting Bitcoin payments and you've got your signs up here and there and Bitcoin's on the window and Bitcoin accepted here, that people could have just a very kind of negative perception based on a false kind of narrative, brought by the mainstream media or brought by wherever they got their information from. So that is probably the biggest challenge for many. It's not, promoting it or talking about it as much. And I am as guilty as anybody. I'm a healthcare practice. I can't just go and start shouting about, financial related topics, even though I want to talk about Bitcoin, but you have to be kind of sort of sensitive around it or work around it in a sly roundabout way, which is another Bitcoin term. But that is a challenge, and it probably, hopefully, over time won't be as much of a challenge as it becomes more mainstream.
That is
Um,
changing though. Like at this
Look, it
stage,
is changing, yeah.
yeah.
Like, again, 2, 3 years ago when I started, it was trickier. And it was a conversation I remember having with one of the guys in the Belfast meetup on the first day there, and he was saying the same. Like, it can kind of a negative impact if you're, really pushing to accept Bitcoin payments. So you have to be, just be open to having it. It's an option for people. But then that's the thing I didn't really kind of go into much is it's the actual community around Bitcoin. Bitcoiners will want to support businesses that accept Bitcoin, even if you're set up to openly accept Bitcoin, but you're not maybe accepting that many payments in Bitcoin. Bitcoiners will want to come to your business. I think this is a very powerful thing currently because it's, in a way, globally such a small kind of niche environment or community that's developing. Um, on something that's probably one of the most powerful things or powerful kind of concepts that's developed in the last potentially 5,000 years. But having that and having a first mover advantage kind of concept as well as a small business and being seen as a business that is adopting new technology, especially financial technology, will attract more kind of open-minded, forward-thinking people. And potentially you're attracting more like-minded people as well into your business, which will then turn out to be more of your ideal customer. So that kind of evolves into the whole marketing side of things. There's different routes as well. Like when you look at marketing, you could be marketing specifically to the Bitcoin kind of ecosystem, which is then a separate marketing message to the general population. So yeah, there's ways around it and kind of exciting concepts to explore as a business as well, which again brings your business more hope because you can evolve and adapt into a new environment, a new space, and promote your products and services there.
So yeah, yeah. Great points, and kind of leads me on to the last question I would have for you, Alan. So like, you've seen this, and as you say, you've seen it evolve 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe people were hands off. You don't want to mention Bitcoin. You don't want to associate it with your business. I think it's going to get to that point where you have to do it, or you're going to get left behind, as we discussed. Give me your 5 year outlook. And again, I know you can't be overly precise with this, but how do you see this Bitcoin for small businesses evolving over the next, say, 5 years, right up to 2030?
Well, I think with Emerge 21 driving the educational concept around Bitcoin, um, I think it'll grow. I think coming into 2025 now, with what's happening, more businesses, more people are paying attention to it. They can't not. What's happening purely with the price, as you say, that attracts attention. Um, that will attract attention. People will come to understand it more and more businesses will then, out of necessity, as we've mentioned, and basically as a life raft for your business, need Bitcoin. And you can see the industries within payment processing, within even advice around Bitcoin for businesses. I think that will evolve rapidly over 2025, 20 into 2026. And probably like proportion of businesses that are accepting Bitcoin, like globally, I think on BTC Maps, there's I could be wrong, but maybe around 30,000 plus businesses globally, probably more than that now. This was a few months before I looked at that, but you could see that easily, like, 5 to 10xing over the next 5 years at least. So I think it'll be more commonplace. I think more businesses will be probably even connecting with their manufacturer, their suppliers, in potentially Bitcoin payments as well, because we didn't mention cross-border payments and the ease of, just sending a payment across the globe in Bitcoin versus what you have to do with the current system. It makes sense. And as more evolved economies as well, more kind of, industrial, technologically advanced economies will start accepting Bitcoin for payments. It'll just grow because it's a network effect as well. And when you have a positive network effect, that's going to produce a better economically incentivized system and global marketplace, then it makes sense. And when you have that backed by the laws of maths, physics, nature, as we've discussed, um, I can't see it going any other way. So, in effect, yeah, it'll 5 year outlook. It's more and more businesses will be using it. More and more businesses will be certainly adopting it on their balance sheets. I think that will be the first kind of rollout where you'll see more of these kind of bigger companies within, like, even Fortune 500. You're into NASDAQ companies, tech companies. We're already seeing healthcare companies doing it as well, adopting Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and then more businesses will just kind of filter through and do the same, follow suit. And then the integration of payments within the businesses will definitely be, I think, more commonplace. In 5 years from now, I think it'll be as commonplace as just tapping with your phone to pay in fiat. You'll be just doing the same with Bitcoin. You'll just have the option. People, press a button, I'll pay with Bitcoin if I want. And hopefully by that time, you won't have the capital gains issues. And it'll be more of a kind of organic peer-to-peer ecosystem that will benefit everybody involved. So yeah, it's obviously hard to predict exactly, and that's probably a bit of a generalized answer.
No, to be honest, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we're in the middle of that, Bitcoin on a balance sheet for businesses, and I think it's going to be unavoidable. And I think the signals are out there, through some big corporations, and you'll see it medium-sized business and small businesses where they're getting a massive advantage and people can't avoid it. So yeah, I think that Bitcoin on a balance sheet is already underway, well underway at this stage. And again, I think it's a no-brainer to do it at this stage. Now, as far as payments are concerned, I think the real kickoff for this is, and this probably leads me into wrapping up the conversation and talking about the next one actually as well, our next podcast. But the US are leading the way massively, and I think they will either have an amount that you can transact with that is
Mm.
non-taxable,
Yeah.
not subject to capital gains, or eliminate capital gains completely. And once they do that, and once they see that that's working in the US, I think other countries will adopt it. And I think that's a really kickoff. I think that is a blocker for payments for me anyway, the capital gains tax. Now, I don't mind giving away my Bitcoin, but and replacing it with it, but not if
Yeah.
I have to go through any kind of accounting or um
Yeah.
no, and I have used it, and I am a fan of payments, but I think there's a couple of blockers there. Now, the US leading the way, I think, um, as we say, I think this part of the world, UK, Ireland, and Europe are way behind. Next week, or next podcast, we have an interesting guy from the Bitcoin Network Ireland on, who is a big advocate for Bitcoin in Ireland, and I think that's where we have to, and Emerge 21 and all these companies that are based in Ireland, UK, and Europe, that need to get a move on, because I think we are going to be left behind in this.
Mm.
So yeah, I see America kicking off, and then I see the rest trying to play catch up, and it's up to us to try and promote this as a tool for people to use.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. It filters in. It will have to filter into politics as well, and people that are making decisions in the economy. And I think if more and more people, so like ourselves, like within any of the Bitcoiners around Ireland or the UK, will be able to like try to get in front of these people and explain this and do it in a way that invites them in a, I suppose, in a pleasurable way. Not that you're again forcing down their throat, but it's just on be open-minded to sit down, have a conversation, understand what's happening here, Because I think it's just, I know it's one of those things with again, we mentioned it, Keynesian economics, and that's what's being taught throughout the school system and economics degree courses, and that's what filters through into the governmental level. So that there needs to be an openness around that and understanding that, potentially this is not quite the right thing to be doing, or, we should look at this other option, which might make things better and might solve a lot of problems that we currently face. But yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation, obviously, around that next week. Is Monday we're going to probably record that, is it? Or yeah,
Yeah, it'll be sometime next week and we'll
yeah,
release it. So yeah, and that's a kind of that's the direction we're going to go. Not the direction. I think we'll still continue these conversations, these educational podcasts as well, and these shows. But we want to bring on guests as well to give their perspective on it, and we have some interesting guests booked over the next couple of months as well. So yeah, stay with us. It's interesting times ahead, and look, no better place to be in a growing ecosystem that you've just described, Alan, very well on the payment side as well, and the layer two and for small business, medium businesses and corporations. So yeah,
yeah.
all interesting stuff coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say again, if anybody has any questions, anything at all, feel free to drop a comment below if it's on YouTube or if it's on one of the podcast channels, or even just email us at support@emerge21. Feel free to reach out, or some of the social media, because we're here. It'll be us, some of us replying to you. It's not some random chat GPT AI bot or anything like that. But yeah, just reach out, ask questions, because that's what we're here for. Ask as much. No, not any question. No one question will be a stupid question. Believe you me. So just feel free. And then again, we'll be looking at what dates today anyway, Chris. This is
The 6th of
of the
December.
recording. So again, we're going to be looking at the breakthrough, Bitcoin breakthrough on the 13th. If anybody wants to deep dive more into kind of breaking through what Bitcoin is, to get a better understanding over the course of a 3-day period, which is 1 hour every evening, or again, depending on where you are in the world, it'll be an hour of your time, but it should open up a lot of insight and kind of give you a clearer understanding of what Bitcoin is and why it's important. But yeah, so I'll leave it at that for now, Chris. If you have any final words of wisdom.
No, I think you covered a lot of ground there. Really interesting episode. I learned a bit as well.
So did I.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it
good.
was a
So
good
yeah,
one.
it's good having these conversations out loud, and we learn off and bounce off each other as well. So yeah, look, no, I think that's it. I think just hoping that we continue this series, bring more guests on, and hopefully people tune in, and we'll see them all in the next episode.
Mhm. Good stuff. Look forward to it.